Go. Well, we are in the spring of 2022, almost summer, and we are, in my words, bear market. I don't know if the financial markets have officially called themselves a bear market yet, but man, it feels that way, doesn't it? Bear markets are painful for just about any investor, but when you throw in business owner or practice owner on top of it, and maybe your finances are somewhat intertwined with your personal, or at least it's part of your financial future, this time can be very nerve-wracking. But our guest today is going to help us start to make some sense of it and give us a couple of tips that at least can help us calm ourselves down in some of these more heated moments of the market. My name is Carl White. I am principal at Market Advisory Group, which is a healthcare marketing agency, and I'm also the host of Practice Care. The mission of both is to help private practice owners stay private. Not only is that what they want, but care is better. Care is better when it's just you and your provider sitting at the table figuring out what is best for you, and nobody else with any other agenda is secretly whispering in the provider's ear with what their needs are, like a hospital or a health system or owners that are far and distant away. When it's just you and your doctor, the best care that you can get is possible in that situation. And today, my guest is Michael Resnick. Michael is a certified financial planner, and he and his team help ensure that their clients and their loved ones are financially secure for the future, which is an easy thing to say, but no small thing to accomplish. Through creating a comprehensive financial plan, they individually tailor their portfolios to accomplish their goals. And everything begins with what Michael calls values-based planning, and that remains throughout the relationship. Michael, thanks for coming on Practice Care.
Thanks for having me, Carl.
So start us off with like a sort of a simple kind of fact about your practice. There are some financial planners out there, those who, work in that world, that they only deal with individuals, but there are others who work with business owners as well. You are in the latter. Can you kind of just break down your practice? About what percent of your practice is, business owners, where you're working on the business side of financial planning and they're kind of intertwined also with their individual lives?
About 50% of my practice is business owners that are gearing towards retirement. A large part of my practice as well is, former business owners who have, exited the business and are actually retired.
Okay.
So they kind of mix and match. And then I have a number of corporate executives that are also clients.
Okay. So you are on the phone probably almost daily, if not daily, with somebody who's a business owner going, holy crap, what is happening out there? When do you think it's going to turn? What do you think is going to change? Yes, definitely.
Yes, especially in these days, the spring of 2022 volatility kicking up, and everyone's got buzzwords that they're concerned about, whether it's interest rates or inflation or supply chain,
yes,
or pandemic. But
yes, it's the mother of all. On the one hand, none of it makes sense. On the other hand, everything's going down, and what a great combination. It's all going down and none of it makes sense why. So obviously it does, but it's on a quick glance. So you talked in your bio about values-based planning, and you and I have known each other for now, for a while, and you've talked about it before and described it a bit. But for our listeners, because I don't hear that from, many financial advisors at all. So what do you mean by values-based planning? Number one, and number two, I'm curious how that's works, or if it's different for the business owner / individual planning scenario versus just an individual planning scenario.
So the values-based planning aspect is not that different from business owners as opposed to, non-business owners, because the values are your values, and oftentimes it's entrenched in the business that you've created, the business that you've built, or your practice, and the way you manage your practice and your patients. So the values-based aspect is really in-depth conversations about what drives you and your family. And so it's a husband, it's a wife. The business is one part of your overall portfolio, on the financial side, but really just focusing on the values and, what's really important about money to you? What's really important about what you are doing and what drives you? And that is a really, really important conversation for us to get to know one another before we ever even talk about tangible goals that require money and planning to achieve. You might have a desire to sell your practice or sell your business, at age 60 or 65. You may want to just, semi-retire. That's a tangible goal. But before we even, address that, we really need to have that values conversation.
So what's an example or two of the types of values that you're talking about?
So really, it's interesting because you think about Abe Maslow's hierarchy of needs,
Okay.
and you start talking to, I'll be talking to, clients and prospective clients about their values and really what's important. And when you start to talk to people, that initial need is it's all about them. I need security.
Okay. I
I
was just
need
thinking of that one.
Yes, exactly. What's important about money to you? Well, it helps me to provide for my family. Okay, great. But then you dive deeper into that and what's really important about that. And then it becomes, okay, now it's, well, I really want my children to be able to go to the colleges they want, or I want to be able to have the flexibility to do things with my family. I want my family's health to be protected. It becomes really talking about others. But then that third hierarchy is where it's that nirvana state. It's what really drives you at your core. And some people we start a conversation and people go right there very quickly. Others, it really takes a while to dive down into it.
So what's an example of like that, the core nirvana where you say, all right, now we're there. We've peeled your
It's
thick
fun.
onion, we've peeled you, and there it is.
It's funny. So I had a conversation with a client and we were really diving deep, and they said, that's what I'm all about. It's when I get to the pearly gates, I want to look back on what I've done in my past, and I want my legacy to be, having provided for my family and for my friends and for my charity and for my church, and really have it all as one. And it was really such a pinnacle moment. This was just recently. And so that she really found her moment. Other people, they might not find it in that initial conversation. You might not get there.
Yeah. So, I mean, who's the client? You don't have to name names, but who took you the longest to find there it is, to find there's the value that I've been talking about.
Oh my goodness. Some people, it's, it, ideally, it's a pretty quick conversation. It might be 20 or 30 minutes max, but I've had people that really, we dove into it and it was well over an hour.
Mhm.
Just talking about the values before we ever addressed any of their financial goals or desires.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then I just want to go back to the one, when I'm at the pearly gates, I have my own words. I've checked all these different boxes that I want to check, and that's what makes me feel fulfilled. Then do you kind of come back and say, all right, so for that, I gave to my church. Is there a number that they want, or some sort of percentage or something that says that box is checked when I'm standing at the pearly gates if I've given that much, or how does that, then you got to kind of come back and put the tangibles behind it, right?
Yeah, well, that once we've kind of established what's really driving them, then we start talking about the tangible goals. So it might be, I want to work with clients who tithe. They've got 10% that's going straight to the church. Okay, well, that's a tangible goal. We need to plan for that and make sure that they can achieve their other goals while that's taking place. Now we're getting into the numbers aspect, and that's the financial planning. And when I went through my initial education to become a certified financial planner. There's the behavioral finance aspect of it, which is how people respond to money. But then there are the planning techniques, and you want to make sure that they can achieve their goals in the most tax efficient manner possible,
Mhm.
and really get where they want to get. But some people have goals that aren't really attainable, so that's also a difficult conversation. If someone's just not saving enough money to be able to retire when they want to retire,
Yeah.
you need to have that conversation. Say either you're going to work longer than you didn't originally intended, or you're going to need to spend less now and save more.
Yeah. Yeah. In your practice, I'm wondering how the values conversation goes when it's, doctors who are practice owners compared to other business people. Are there any different? I don't know what are there any, we didn't talk about this. Are there differences there that you notice?
Well, I think a lot of the physicians that I work with, they have a little better sense of self because they weren't driven into medicine to make money. They do well,
Mhm.
but that wasn't the driving force. And so because of that, I think they have a little bit better sense of what internally is pushing them forward.
Okay.
Um, so yeah, I think some of the now listen, there are plenty that I've spoken with who, they they're much more business focused, business
Yeah.
oriented, and so I really have to dive a little bit deeper to have that conversation with them. But no, doctors, I think in general, they really want to do good. They want to do well, but they also want to do good as they're doing well.
Yeah. And you there it is, right? I mean, and that's my personal opinion. That's the right way to do it. People, doctors, whoever, the smart people could pick lots of different paths to
Mhm.
do what they want to do. My goodness, if you're gonna be a doctor and see patients every day, I hope there's a fulfilling aspect to it because it's a busy day. And day after day, I sure hope you like it because it's going to be grueling as hell if you don't. Um, and you're going to be miserable.
Right.
Um, do you notice any difference there? So, well, first the question, the answer could be probably no. Do you notice any difference between uh, between surgeons and more on the pure medical side who don't, because there's other differences between them as a gross generalization. But
Right.
I wonder if you see that in your world too. Plenty of exceptions,
There
listeners, plenty of exceptions.
there are those generalizations about surgeons, um, but I have a couple of surgeons who are just so heartfelt and really
Mhm.
just so connected. One of my clients who's a surgeon, you know, was just talking about how he really is in the process of reducing his workload, not so that he can work less, but so that he can spend more time with his patients because he just feels so badly
Yeah.
about being with a patient for 20 minutes and then saying, okay, my scribe is going to take the rest of your information,
Yeah.
and the PA is going to handle this. So he really wanted to spend more time with his patients, and he's willing to make less money
Hmm.
in return for that ability.
Right. But it's still good money, right? It's
Yes.
clearly good enough, or
Yeah.
else your client wouldn't have done it.
Correct.
Yeah. Yeah. I did a podcast episode um, a couple of days ago with a Canadian doctor. And the sad part is, so primary care here in the US, traditional primary care, you get 7 to 10 minutes. Nobody's happy,
Right.
on both sides of the table. It's sadly similar in Canada. It's about 9 or 10 minutes, not enough time. And, sometimes you're just managing medications, whatever it is, it's just not enough time. And yeah, different models. And those are some of the better business people, because here in the States, you've got a couple of options. Your client one, I've got a client who's, it's called direct primary care. It's primary care, but it's a membership model, and that allows my client to take a lot fewer patients and spend more time with them. And the financials are kind of set to work well. Um, and you've got that option down here. But that's the good business person taking a risk,
Right.
you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. So one question I've had for a while, and I'm glad I've got a chance to ask you now, and I can't be the only one, is um, there's words financial advisor, you're a CFP, a certified financial planner. Can you just, because it gets to, the reason I'm asking this is not because I'm just sort of idly curious, but it gets to who you choose and why.
Mhm.
For this is a big deal to anybody who's thinking about this. So what are the differences? What are the good fits for each?
So it's a great question, because I have spoken with people who sell home and auto insurance who call themselves financial advisors. There's no there's no issue, or there's no legal issue with
Mhm.
calling yourself a financial advisor. Anyone can use that term. To call
I didn't
yourself
know
a
that. Yeah.
right, to be a financial planner, especially a certified financial planner, you know, I went to school at Northwestern to study financial planning. You know,
Okay.
there's a rigorous exam. You know, it's there's the CFP, there's the CPA, and then there's the CFA, the Charter Financial Analyst.
Right.
So those are kind of the big three in the designations world.
Yeah.
Um, so
Okay.
yeah, if you're talking to a financial advisor, find out a little bit more about, what is the depth and scope of what he is capable of doing, she is capable of doing for you.
Right.
Is this someone who sells products specifically? Do they represent a particular company and
Right.
they're calling themselves an advisor, but they're really a salesperson? Or do they have the capability of acting in a fiduciary capacity to act in your best interest
Right.
and create an ongoing relationship?
Right. So in that sense, advisor's more like opinion. You've got an opinion, but for you, there's a serious credential. There's real rigor behind it.
Exactly.
Yeah. Okay. Clear that up for me. Thank you. So we're in the bear market. We can just call it colloquially, even if it hasn't been declared formally as such. But what kinds of questions are you getting from business owners out there who are your clients?
So,
What's the
so
freak out level?
right. So the freak out level is it's getting to peak level, and I haven't
Boy, I hope
had
you're
some
right.
of these conversations since March of 2020. At the bottom of the pandemic, but that bottom happened so quickly.
Yeah.
Market bounced, so quickly that I had the conversations and, held people's hands to get through it briefly, and then the market came back quickly. I
Yeah.
don't know if we're going to come back as quickly this time, but a lot of the conversations I'm having are all about time. And
What do you mean?
people who tell me I'm having trouble sleeping at night, I'm looking at the market, I'm worried about my business, and I'm worried about, the 401k that I have all these employees and they're losing money. So having the conversation about time is really important, because investing is all about time.
Okay.
And taking a long-term view. I had a conversation with someone who was 48 years old, and he was very nervous about the market. And I said, well, when are you planning on retiring? You have all this money in retirement savings, and you just saw it go down from one statement to the next. But if you look back 3 statements, you're right back where you were 3 statements ago. So it's not that big of a deal. But if you look at it 5 years from now, 10 years from now,
Mhm.
15 years from now, do you really think you're going to remember what the market was doing in the spring of 2022? Probably not.
Mhm.
So really helping people have that perspective, I think. And look, I spent years on the trading floor before I ever became a financial planner, yelling and screaming for a living and
Right.
trading the markets day to day, moment to moment. I was one of those guys.
Mm.
And so I understand the short-term fluctuations of the market better than most people on the planet.
Yeah.
And I also understand that investing and your retirement savings and your business that will someday provide that retirement savings, what happens day to day, moment to moment, should not be affecting your true retirement, as long as you take a long-term view. Now, if the market drops and you react and you pull everything out into cash, now you've actually lost money. Now you've actually given away money. It was Warren Buffett who said, look, when the tide rolls out, you get to see who's swimming naked.
Yeah.
You need to be able to withstand the fluctuations of the market and not look at it day to day, moment to moment.
Yeah.
The worst invention they ever made was the 24-hour business news cycle.
Yes.
Where you could watch the markets day in, day out.
Yes. And it's funny, it's like every hour, breaking news. I'm like, no, I saw that break an hour ago, which was itself broken this morning. Yeah.
Yes.
And I had a realization, I don't know, a year and a half ago, where even on the day I retire, I don't need everything I've saved on that day or in that moment. I don't have to switch everything out. It's not like a savings account now. I mean, I hope to live a few decades after the day I retire, which if I picked day one of retirement and 30 years later, that's a new long-term view. It's a different mix because I need some of it now, whereas I don't need any of it now. But still, even that, there's still a good chunk of time on my side. And that just, when I realized that and I went, is that true? And yeah, that's true. It just kind of felt good. It felt really good.
Yes.
But for years, I just thought, well, the day I retire, I need it all. Why would I need it all?
It's funny because there are two different aspects of retirement savings. There's the accumulation period where you're trying to build up this big nest egg. But then when you retire, that retirement nest egg isn't just one clump that now you're going to take. You need to take that clump and turn it into income throughout your retirement. That could be 20, 30 years or more.
Yeah.
People are living longer and healthier, and you could be 85 years old and in good health, and you want to take your grandchildren or your great grandchildren on a cruise. That's part of your retirement plan.
Right. And when it's said like that, and I always heard that, like, I want to be able to do all these things and I need to make sure, like, I need to make sure I have enough to last throughout my retirement, which sounds like a big ask. But then when I pair it with, but I still have time to do that even during retirement, that makes it feel a little, all right, we'll figure it out. I don't know what the answer is, but we'll figure it out.
Right.
Yeah.
That's where you turn to a
that's where turn to you. That's right.
And ask him to figure it out for
you. Exactly. Pull all your cool tools out of your toolbox and show me what's possible. Well, this has been great. And I know I say this to a lot of guests, as we could go on for a long time and keep digging in, but a couple of wrap-up questions. And the first one is there anything, now that we've talked about this, is there anything you think I should have asked you that, practice owners who are listening to this should know about, but just didn't think to ask you?
I just want practice owners to know that there are resources out there that they don't need to figure it out themselves. Google is a great resource and all, but there are professionals out there who can really give you guidance.
Yeah.
So reach out to those professionals, whether it's a certified financial planner, whether it's an accountant who really gets it and takes a holistic view, but you want someone who's going to look at all aspects of your financial world.
Right.
So the whole idea of holistic financial planning is having a planner who's going to look at everything. They're going to look at your estate plan, your taxes, your investments, your insurance portfolio. That's all part and parcel of your whole. So make sure that you have an advisor who can really guide you on all aspects of your plan.
And if you're a practice owner, that means you're a business owner. So someone who's got the experience to look at the business side too, because you're growing the business, you're feeding the business, living off the business for in part a financial purpose. So at least somebody who's got exposure and some understanding, rather than having two or leaving that asset out to draw, I don't know, to just ignoring it somehow would be a bad idea.
And if I can interject also, if you someday want to sell your practice or your business, don't wait until it's time to sell to go to an advisor for advice.
Yeah.
Have the planning done years in advance, because that will really help you build the value of your practice and make it a much more seamless transition.
Right, right. And then the other question I ask, and I have an answer, is partial answer is, what are one or two tangible pieces of advice you would give to listeners who are, they're practice owners, they're, I don't know, especially in these, turbulent times, piece of advice you would give them and that they could start thinking about or doing the moment that we're done recording. And I think one of them is start to wrap your head around your values if you have not yet done so, because, I guess it's like a lot of things in life, maybe you'll know it when you find it, but it's not, I need enough to, if your answer is a number, it sounds like from what you're saying, you haven't quite dug deep enough onto what the core value is behind it.
Right. And I think, if you can find someone who really specializes in that, like me, who can really help evoke those, those values through the conversation, it's difficult to do it yourself. Having someone to guide you through it is very critical.
So how would somebody, if they're interviewing different CFPs, how would they know if the person that they're talking to does that? Is it simple as, what's your process with new clients? Are there things they should listen for? Not everybody uses the same terms that you do. How would they know they found one?
Well, the CFP board has a website, cfp.org, where you can search for a financial planner in your area.
I mean, those who go after the values the way that you do.
Oh, they go after the values. That's a little bit more. You just have to talk with people and get a sense of what they're about and really see what questions they're asking you.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's a standard kind of interview process, but you have to know what you're listening for.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Well, Michael, thank you again for coming on Practice Care. It's been a pleasure. So we're going to put all your contact info in the show notes, but what's your preferred way for people to contact you if they want to do so?
Shoot me an email. Email is always easy. It's a great way to just set up a future conversation.
Okay.
So, michael.resnick@aleragroup.com.
Perfect.
And
And Alera is ALERA. So aleragroup.com. Thank you.
Yeah.
And a couple of points before we wrap up. Firstly, if you've had an experience on the business side of your practice, you've cracked the code on something, you're working through something, you've changed or innovated your practice in some way, and you think others would benefit from hearing about it, we really want you to come on Practice Care and share that experience with the world so that others can get the benefit from it. On the Practice Care website and in the show notes, there's a link for a form to fill out, very easy and quick. Just tell us a bit about what your idea is or what you want to talk about, and we'll get you scheduled as soon as possible. And secondly, if you haven't done so already, please subscribe to Practice Care on Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to your podcasts. Thanks again, and until next time.